I may be under a cold spell, but this has to be said. It involves problems so bad that I am wishing that I didn't have to resort to a YouTube video at this point in time, and yet I have to. Recently, there was a new series called American Dystopia by Tucker Carlson that filed propaganda against the San Francisco Bay Area. Yes, propaganda. I'm in my every right to call it that, especially when I myself will be the first person to call out the problems in the San Francisco yay area, because I would definitely never forget about how a guy would go onto his girlfriend's account to declare her his property and make death threats, as I even called out on YouTube a decade back. Let's not forget the likes of the litter bug smokers that I complained about in a video a while back, or the cross assault incident. Just the cross assault incident. And this is the stuff that I have directly shown. There are other, even more underlying problems that I would wish to show in a more welcome position where scumbags like the trolls cannot make things worse in response, not even limited to some cheap attempt to give me the mass use treatment and convincing anybody in their right mind that the death of the guy who trope workshopped savvy guy energetic girl could be suicide or an accident. We already had gaming communities do underpinning mockery of Matthew Pike for being murdered by either a Black Widow or a guy who had to traverse country separating water. Oh, and yes, you get to see you see I get the rent when I have being a Californian and a gamer get me stereotyped by shallow idiots. That's all the Republicans care about. To tar whoever they can with the same brush and subject them to condemnation, especially for its own sake. They're, they are an even bigger problem than the Democrats in name only and the rights advocates gone mad. And believe me when I say that's saying something, when too often the likes of the Californians will cut corners and not even show remorse about it, instead hiding behind the aspect of the tyranny of the people. Do the likes of Tucker Carlson care about who gets caught in the crossfire of that mess? Of course not. If they did, they would provide contact info for talking in private about key testimony. They don't, because they just want it to hear and record whatever they want in the interest of victory at all costs for the Republicans. That's a problem when the Republicans want to shut out the scrutiny of their own take on things. As I've seen members of IFAN would make themselves actually remark how nobody should complain about the way enemy is handled, even when it involves fan service for its own sake, or other such blatant idiocy that wouldn't stand against scrutiny. They even think that California should just burn down. And don't even get me started on Trump doing things like committing genocide by inaction just to handle a freaking hotel, or launching that uncalled for attack against the Iran military officer just to create a distraction from his very deserved impeachment. Or how about that Texas is willing to legalize murder? Really, Tucker Carlson is no different from the anime superhero forum moderator Light Lucario, who has pulled censorship, ironically proving a disregard to her own side's points just to silence the notion of the happy medium. The only real difference is that they're clearly on opposite teams. But okay, so the American dystopia propaganda would still have some valid points about the region being a mess. Well, why don't we take a look at their claim that the residents apparently like being messy? Because I remember about a woman over a decade older than me who was a Genki girl, and she lives in this region. And I definitely remember how she has shown paranoia about getting diseases, which is why she would complain about getting a lion's share of bathroom detail. Tucker Carlson wants to claim that people like her enjoy circumstances thrusted down their throats. And by the way, to the woman in question, if you listen to this, I urge you and the group you're associated with to please make a YouTube video response or some such to the American dystopia propaganda. Deconstruct the lies it will throw about, given that they will slander the very purpose of things like the Declaration of Independence from 1776. Even if there are still underlying problems from cutting corners, the Republican agenda is still the bigger threat, as something like that will just trample over anybody who has to deal with legitimate problems, because they will provide no sympathy and will just throw about guilt by association. Stand against that and prove beyond doubt your worth to the people! Excuse me. Yeah, see, I told you about the cold. Anyway, I'm not even sure to listen, unfortunately. But we see how Tucker Carlson will make it of things so that people will hate Democrats for outright arbitrary reasons rather than just the legitimate ones, and do what he can to make sure Trump and the Republicans will gain power that they don't deserve. They'll make up any claims they can to clarify as much. And yes, I still stand as somebody who is living proof of why people from Democratic states in the East Coast actually think California is full of idiocy. I'm wanting to testify even more actively than I already have been if I could just have a more useful position for nipping a key problem in the bud. Republican invasion will simply make that very same problem impossible to call out because they will show no empathy about it, and if anything, will use it to further incite the rampant prejudice. While the Democrats in name California is full of idiocy, I'm wanting to testify even more actively than I already have been if I could just have a more useful position for nipping a key problem in the bud. Republican war doesn't determine who is correct. It determines only who remains.